The savage lives from hand to mouth, without foresight or reflection. For generations, this idea shaped how the Stone Age was generally understood. Early humans were assumed to be impulsive, reactive, and intellectually limited, surviving but not really thinking. Stone tools were taken as evidence of crude minds. The absence of writing was treated as an absence of planning, and complexity was assumed to arrive only with farming, cities, and states. For a long time, this story went largely unchallenged, not because it was proven, but because there was very little evidence to contradict it. That has changed. Over the last few decades, archaeology, cognitive science, and anthropology have all quietly dismantled this picture. And what has replaced it is far more unsettling, because the problem with the old view of the Stone Age wasn't a lack of data, it was a failure of imagination. Consider Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. This site dates to roughly 9600 BCE, well before farming took hold. Here, Stone Age communities quarried limestone pillars weighing up to 20 tons. They carved them with detailed animal reliefs, and they arranged them into monumental circular structures. No metal tools, no wheels, no written instructions. Archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, who led the excavation, described the site as evidence for organizational capabilities we did not expect from hunter-gatherers. It's important to remember that this wasn't just physical labor. This demonstrates logistical coordination. Work had to be planned weeks, months, years in advance. Tasks had to be divided, and food had to be secured for people who weren't hunting. Cognitive archaeologist Thomas Wynne argues that this level of coordination requires advanced working memory and future modelling. In other words, planning across time, not reacting to the present moment. One of the many reasons that Stone Age intelligence was underestimated is actually quite simple. Much of it didn't leave physical artifacts. Modern societies externalize knowledge into books, screens, and diagrams. Stone Age societies, however, internalized it. They carried vast amounts of information in memory. Seasonal animal migrations, plant cycles, weather patterns, landscape navigation across hundreds of kilometers. Anthropologist Tim Ingold describes this knowledge as being embedded in movement through the landscapes. It wasn't written down, instead, it was lived. Let's examine cave art, which is often treated as self-expression. That framing misses the point. At Chauvet Cave, dated around 30,000 BCE, artists used perspective, shading, and overlapping figures to suggest motion. Neuroscientist Derek Hodgson has shown that these techniques require advanced visual abstraction. So this is not accidental. Many paintings are located far inside the caves, beyond living spaces. That suggests intention, possibly even ritual, possibly shared symbolic systems, or possibly even belief or religion. This is thinking made visible. The long-standing assumption that Stone Age societies were socially simple can be put aside with burial evidence which suggests otherwise. For example, at Sungir, near modern-day Moscow, 2 children buried around 34,000 years ago were laid to rest with thousands of ivory beads and carefully arranged spears. Anthropologist Brian Hayden argues that this reflects social differentiation and even inherited status. These were definitely structured societies, not states, but not chaos. Much of what we got wrong comes from assuming history moves in a straight line. Stone to bronze to iron to modern. Earlier equals were worse. But skeletal evidence complicates this story. Early farming populations were often shorter, less healthy, and more disease-prone. Biologist Jared Diamond once called agriculture the worst mistake in history for the human race. That may be somewhat overstated, but it highlights something important. Stone Age societies were not waiting to be improved. They were adapted. So what did we really get wrong about the Stone Age? Not tools, not timelines, but capability. These were people who planned far ahead, who stored knowledge without writing, who thought symbolically. They organized complex social lives, and they were not primitive versions of us. They were intelligent in ways that we simply stopped recognizing. As archaeologist Clive Gamble put it, they were not waiting for history to begin. They were living it.